Moshe makes one more attempt to say, seemingly, don't just send me, do something else. He says, "Vayomer bi'adoni, shlachna bi'ad tishlach." He says, "Oh my Lord, send, I beseech you, by the hand of whom you will send." And then something strange happens, because it's "Vayihar af Adonai b'Moshe vayomer halo Aharon ahicha halewi yada'ati ki daber yedaber ki daber yedaber וגם הנה הוא יוצא לקראתך, ורעך ושמח בליבו. And the anger of the Lord was kindled against Moshe. Okay, just stop there. What is going to happen to someone, usually, when the anger of the Lord is kindled against them? Seems like that's usually prelude to something bad happening to them. Or, at any rate, something happening that shows that the creator of the world is angry. It's really problematic at some level to talk about emotions that HaKadosh Baruch Hu feels that don't have expression in his creation, because then in what sense is there a reality to that, right? Like if he doesn't show that he is angry at any point, then to what degree is it true of anything about the universe to say that Hashem is angry? Like it starts to be very much like HaKadosh Baruch Hu is this kind of platonic, abstract spirit of forms in some other realm. Like it gets very sort of dualistic. At the end of the day, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I think this is a pretty strong principle throughout the Torah. If we hear about Hashem's emotion or characteristics in any way, it's expressed in the world that he created, because otherwise it's irrelevant. It's not meaningful to say to humanity that Hashem feels this or feels that, unless he shows that somehow. And so if that's the case, then we should be looking at what is the anger of Hashem? Where is that expressed? How? And I have at least two kinds of suggestions to make here. But before doing that, there's the other part of this pasuk, which is even more puzzling. And Hashem got angry, and he said, "Oh yeah, your brother's coming. He's really good at talking, and he's coming to see you, and he'll be happy to see you." How is that angry? Right? That's not angry. That's good news, seemingly. And it seems like it's a thing that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is doing to help Moshe or to answer his concern. So Hashem got angry, but that anger didn't express itself, and then he just did something nice and helpful. There's something that's missing, or there's something that's not completed about this notion. And I think there's two different kinds of things you could say. One of them is, who is Aharon? Well, Aharon is the more charismatic and friendly or likable kind of brother. He's going to be the Kohen Gadol. He has a different relationship with the people. When they both die, we see that the people mourn Aharon more openly and keenly than they mourn Moshe. And Aharon also is the one who makes Egel HaZahav, the golden calf, when Moshe is absent. So I think part of this, you could say, the anger of Hashem is delayed, right? The anger is going to blaze hot at the time of the golden calf. That Hashem is getting angry because he knows, or he's already preparing for the fact that what Moshe is saying is, look, I can't do this on my own, because there needs to be a more relatable way to connect the people to you. And so in a sense, this is about saying, look, we need a priesthood. The same way they had a priesthood in, every pagan polytheistic idolatry that ever existed, we need that too. We need a human institution that's going to mediate relationship to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And there is something where HaKadosh Baruch Hu just can't help but be angered by that, because the golden calf comes straight from that, right? Whether you want to say the golden calf was the Kiruvim or whether the golden calf was some kind of other attempt at relating to Hashem properly that went off the rails and turned into relating to Hashem improperly. Aharon says, Chag Lashem Mahar, there's going to be a holiday to Hashem tomorrow when the calf is being made, so that there's this sense of this was for Hashem and it didn't work out. So I think that part of this is about Moshe saying, look, I can't do this on my own because we need some kind of human institution that mediates relationship to Hashem, and Hashem is anticipating that will lead to idolatry no matter what. And so, yes, he's gonna grudgingly at some level agree with Moshe that maybe that's necessary, but it's necessary in this way that has these built-in inherent contradictions, and it's going to lead to idolatry, and Aharon is going to be the facilitator of that because he's the panderer, right? Moshe is not a panderer. Moshe will say the truth that he has from Hashem, and the people will not want to listen to him like Moshe anticipates. And Aharon is more likable and more marketable, but likability and marketability maybe put you on a more slippery slope to idolatry, right? Because what do people like? Idols, right? They like to serve things other than Hashem, and if Aharon leans in that direction, then that's what he's going to give them, which is what happens with the golden calf. So I think at that level, what we're saying is this is about the institution of the Kehunah that Aharon represents, and yes, Hashem agrees to that in answer to Moshe's request, because Moshe at some level is right, but he's right in this way where he's right about a flaw that's inherent in the human condition that maybe can be resolved one day as the culmination of human development, but that along the way it's going to constantly mean that the same capacity we have to serve Hashem through proper avodah in His temple will also give us the capacity to serve false gods. And so Kadosh Baruch Hu is angry about that, and maybe expresses that anger when we do serve those false gods. Another possibility is that you have to read, the Hebrew and then translate it differently. Vayihar af Adonai b'Moshe vayomer halo Aharon ahicha halevi yadati ki yidaberhu. So, and the anger of the Lord kindled against Moshe, and he said, is not Aharon the Levite your brother? I know he can speak well. Okay? So, Moshe usually is translated as, and the anger of the Lord was kindled against Moshe. But biz obviously, can mean different things. And in this context, rather than saying that Kadosh Baruch Hu was angry at Moshe, because you could say maybe he's angry at Moshe, and so he's going to go after him in the episode where Tzipora is going to have to do the circumcision, right? So that's another way that you could say that there is anger at Moshe himself, and it's going to be expressed. But rather than go that route, or rather than expand on that route, because it's probably also reasonable to think that through a little bit, a different possibility is it's because of Moshe that he's angry, right? So usually you might say like, oh, you're angry because of me. Usually that means you're angry at me, right? You're angry because of something I did. But it could also be that it's Hashem becoming angry. He's going to show his anger to the world because of something Moshe said, but it's not anger directed at Moshe per se. It's more that it's anger that is needed to fulfill the request that Moshe is making. Because this idea of biyad, Vayomer biyadoni shlachna biyad tishlach. What does it mean to shlachna biyad? Like to send in a hand. Interestingly, what is a hand? A hand is a thing that strikes, right? And what does HaKadosh Baruch Hu do when he's redeeming Bnei Yisrael? He redeems them biyad hazakah. He redeems them with a strong hand, mizvah netuya, and an outstretched arm. And he strikes Mitzrayim, right? He is striking them with makot, as we have from Chazal. Makot is not the way that the Torah itself talks about the plagues. But we do also then in the tradition have this whole thing that Chazal turned into pages and pages of the Haggadah talking about how many plagues were there. Well, let's count hands and let's count fingers on hands and how many fingers are there on each hand, etc. Right? They draw our attention to that whole thing. So there is a 5-fingered hand and there are 2 hands on the body, and that makes 10, and there are 10 plagues, right? So hands and plagues, if once we have the tradition that there are 10 plagues that we have in the Haggadah and that we have from our sages, that underlines things more. But the Torah's lashon itself is biyad chazakah, the strong hand that Hashem uses to redeem the people, right? Moshe is saying, look, I don't think the people are going to listen to me. I need something that's going to really make this work, right? That he's saying to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, your hand is going to have to be sent forth to make up the difference. That if I say what I am going to say, they're not going to listen to me, and there needs to be something more objective that's going to ultimately lift them up out of Mitzrayim. And indeed that happens, and it's called the plagues, and it makes Mitzrayim a horrible place to be, and it makes Bnei Yisrael see the might of Hashem, it makes the Egyptians see the might of Hashem, and it's a multi-step process that involves tremendous calamity and destruction that is a clear expression of the anger of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So then if we can read Vayichar af Adonai b'Moshe, as he got angry because of Moshe, he got angry at Mitzrayim because Moshe said what he said, right? And then there's going to be a bunch of anger expressed in Mitzrayim as a result, and it will be through a strong hand or through the 10 fingers on the hands of Hashem, so to speak, that strike Mitzrayim. The last thing to round this all up is the 2 times the phrase Etzba, Etzba Elohim appears, the finger of God. One is during one of the plagues, right? The Kinim, the 3rd plague, and the other one is when the tablets of the covenant are being written with Aseret HaDibrot. So we have these 10 statements that go on the 2 tablets, so it's 5 and 5 maybe. There's a tradition that there's full 10 on each, but certainly with 2 tablets and 10 statements, you could say 5 and 5, so it's like hands. And they're obviously biyad Moshe, in the hand of Moshe, but so there's this association with hands. But I think the important thing is that Etzba Elohim, it's reminding us, it's like the hand, the fingers on the hand, all of those things are images that we're getting from this. But interestingly, it ties the 2 points that we're making together. Why? Because Etzba Elohim being used to write the luchot, the tablets, that's something that we're hearing about at the moment right before the golden calf, when Aharon is going to make the golden calf. So there is this sense in which we have this simultaneous connection between Aharon and the golden calf, and the finger of God writing the tablets, and the tablets having 10 statements on them, but also the finger of God being in the hand of God that's going to strike Mitzrayim, and that there are 10 fingers on the hands of a body, and there are going to be 10 plagues, there are going to be 10 makot that are going to strike Mitzrayim, and that striking of Mitzrayim and also the punishment of Bnei Yisrael for the golden calf are both expressions of Hashem's anger, which is referenced here at this moment, where maybe it's anger that Aharon needs to be involved, or maybe it's anger that Moshe is kind of asking for HaKadosh Baruch Hu to light a fire under everyone and make sure that they listen to him through some kind of more objective means. And I think the point is that they all become one at some level. Moshe is saying to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, there is something unnatural about my succeeding in this task that you're giving me. I have something to say that most people are not going to understand, either because I don't speak the right language, or because I'm not charismatic and persuasive, or because it's too intellectually deep, or whatever. It's for specialists. It's not for, the general public, so to speak. And in all those respects, he might be right. And then HaKadosh Baruch Hu has to give him backing. And the way he gives him backing is with Aharon and with the plagues, And both of those things are sort of about how people in general need wonders. They need the threat of calamity or the experience of calamity. They need things that seem magical to them that they're going to turn around and turn into idols and relate to as sorcery. It's all this different stuff that if Moshe were kind of allowed to succeed through some completely idealistic mechanism, you would strip it all away and you'd say, no, Moshe should just come and speak the word of Hashem, and that should be enough. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants the story to unfold in this way where he says, look, I want the world to be a world in which the word of Hashem doesn't stand on its own and automatically win, right? Because that way, ironically almost, it requires the intervening hand of the creator of the world to allow it to succeed sometimes, right? That you see it not able to succeed by what appears to be the natural way the world works. And then the terrifying hand of the creator of the world reaches in, turns the scales upside down, and the word of Hashem can succeed despite the fact that it seemed like the deck was stacked against it. And on the one hand, that means, in a sense, Moshe can go in, can say what he says, can do what he does. It can seem to not land, and then HaKadosh Baruch Hu will come in and smash the Egyptians flat with the plagues. And so it's sort of about how there's air support, so to speak, for what Moshe is trying to do. And it's wondrous and it's awe-inspiring. But at the same time, the need that people have to see that, which is both the Egyptians and also Bnei Israel, is related also to kind of a need they have for a priesthood. They need to have pageantry. They need to have something that dazzles them. And that in turn makes them dazzleable by things that they shouldn't be dazzled by or they shouldn't relate to as such. And so Aharon steps into the scene, and he's both going to be part of the necessary solution that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives to these people he created who have this need. But Aharon is also this slippery slope where he's dueling with the magicians of Egypt and kind of looking like a magician himself with the staff of his that turns into a tanin. And he's going to make the golden calf, and he's going to make a Beit Mikdash that will eventually be a place for Avodah Zarah, a place for idol worship. So the world is a complicated place, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu has given us the means to succeed, but he's also built all of these pitfalls into the nature of everything that he's created so that we have a hard time getting it right. And then bit by bit, we learn, we reflect on the past, we study the Torah, and hour by hour, day by day, generation by generation, century by century, we do better in Mizrat Hashem. One day we'll get it all right.